Yeah, thank you. So today's session, we are gonna focus on the AI literacy specifically for academic librarians and library users, which means mostly researchers, faculty, and graduate student. We do run this seminar with the help of the Notion Wave and EKB, and we are very happy to have this partnership with EKB. The very high-level objective of today's session is we would like to share some fundamentals of AI with you guys. We would share the main applications of AI in research and libraries, and we are going to share the methodology and approach that how like leading university adopt AI, how they deal with ethical consideration, how they deal with the AI policy framework in their own institutions. These are the very high-level topics that we are gonna share during today's sessions. Before we jump into the sessions, I would like to introduce myself in a very few bullet points. I took my PhD from Electrical and Computer Engineering from UBC, Vancouver, Canada, University of British Columbia. I've been in the industry of AI for the past 15 years and built several industry-grade AI products in various sectors from wearable to medical. I invented AI technology that purchased by Meta, also known as Facebook. And I'm the author of the book called Artificial Intelligence: Unorthodox Lessons, which I shared my industrial practices and experience with the community. And I run a YouTube channel with the same name. Mostly everything that I'm very like a big passion of is the use cases, real world use cases, practical AI, responsible AI, and how we can adopt AI in a very efficient way. So today's session and all the contents that I'm generating is mostly focused on the real world use case that we can adopt in a very daily manner. So let's start with the definition of the AI literacy and why it matters. The whole story starts from 1990 when the internet rise and all the libraries, academia and libraries start adopting the technology and start teaching their library users how to search and how they should criticize and evaluate website and digital content. In 2000, digital databases and ebook rise, and definitely libraries start guiding all of their users about how they can evaluate, how they can cite, and how they can have access to these digital ebooks. In 2010, mostly the whole idea of the open access and open source rise further, and a new trend of digital information rise in the internet, and we were all in need of understanding how we can fact check this information and how we can take advantage of them. In 2020, everyone agreed that AI tools basically introduced to the market, and a huge wave of use cases built around those technology that being proposed in 2-3 years ago. Similar to all previous decades, we need information, we need some programs about how we should use AI, how we should evaluate AI, and how we should use how we should AI responsibly. So these are the things that we need to learn in every setup, either university or industry. But what does it really mean? First, we have to understand what is AI, what is traditional AI, what is generative AI, and how we should choose, for example, GPT models, how we should choose O3 versus 4.5 in a family of the in a family of the OpenAI models, or how we should compare different AI tools to each other. The basic understanding of AI is something that everyone needs to have. The next part, which is very important, is we have to learn what is the best practices of using generative AI. Everyone knows that if we don't know how we use AI properly, we cannot get right and useful response out of it. There's a very famous quote on AI, they call it garbage in, garbage out, which means that if you, in the context of the LLMs and generative AI, it means that if you don't ask your question by details and properly, you may not get your answers well. That's why the whole idea of the prompt engineering skills introduced to the community, and everyone's these days must learn how to write effective prompt. The other aspect of the AI literacy, which is very important, is how we should evaluate AI generated content. Because AI is not perfect, and users, humans, must recognize AI biases and understand to detect when AI hallucinate or when AI provide misinformation. The power of criticizing AI generated content is another skills in the AI literacy that everyone must learn these days. We all have to learn the right way of ethical use of AI. We have to prevent misuse of AI in the context of the university. We have to prevent misuse of AI for example, cheating or unethical research, or have the accountability of the content that we create. In the context of the university, we have to keep our integrity, academic integrity, especially for plagiarism and all the authorship concerns that we have. Big university provide some policies that we are gonna go through of some of them today. We also need to understand what are the right AI tools and how we can use AI for academic research effectively. And definitely, for example, SCiNiTO is one of the tools that help us to run academic research effectively. For those who shared their question in the chat, I just want to say that I cannot have those questions read through the sessions. So please apologize me if I cannot answer that right now. So for different groups in the context of the university, there's different needs. Students have their own needs for the plagiarism for concerns, for example. Faculty have their own needs for understanding how they should use AI for teaching, how they should use AI for research. For the context of academic researchers, they have to understand what are the right use case of AI in research. What are the right AI tools for research? How they can use AI for literature review, how they can use AI for data analysis, or even for drafting proposal. And definitely for library staffs, they have to understand the landscape of AI tools, the limitations, the capabilities, and the concerns that they need to consider for the sake of integration with their current services. So different groups have their own needs, but today we are going to more focus on researchers and librarians. So for the researchers, for the academic researchers, understanding of how they can use AI for effectively conduct research and retrieve information, how they can write enhanced literature review is very important. Before I go through the other basically use case of AI, literature review, this is something that amazed myself as well. I remember the times that we spent months on literature review, but these days we can get a very comprehensive literature review in a few minutes or so, which is very mind-blowing. Academic researchers can use AI to find out right targeted journals. So we can submit our works to different journals, but which journals are the most relevant and effective ones? We can use AI to detect that for us. We can use AI for identifying research gaps very efficiently. We are going to show a sample today. Academic researchers must evaluate the limitation and capabilities of AI for sake of understanding what are the right way of using that, and many, many more. For the academic librarians, they have to learn and build AI literacy within the libraries in order to guide researchers as a source of information. They have to guide researchers how they should retrieve information from library using AI effectively. Academic librarians must be able to critically evaluate and curate resources like digital AI resources for the libraries. They have to understand how they should evaluate different AI tools to introduce that to their community, to their users. These days, in leading universities, they have their own setup, and they introduce tools that is proper and effective for different use cases for their users in their own website. They provide resources, they provide tools. So the librarians are very big part of this journey to make sure that everyone in the university can have access to the right resource, right tools, and use them responsibly. So now we have very brief idea about what does AI literacy means and why we need that. So let's jump into the very basics of AI. We are gonna review this basics of AI to kind of demystifying AI for everyone's today. In general, if I want to say what does AI mean, or what is AI, basically, you have two fields of AI, generative AI and traditional AI. Generative AI is just something that being introduced in the past few years, and they are mostly designed to generate new content. They have some other use cases, but they are designed to generate new content. That content can be text, can be audio, can be code. The software development being revolutionized by this generative AI. The very good use case of Gen AI is question answering, content creation, code generation. And obviously the examples for Gen AI is ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, Gemini from Google. This is from OpenAI, this is from Anthropic, and so on. But traditional AI, the AI that we had for the past few decades, mostly are designed to identify patterns, categorize data, and predict future events. They have definitely some overlap of use cases and definition between Gen AI and traditional AI, but I try to separate them based on their definition. The very good use case of traditional AI was fraud detection or demand forecasting or churn prediction. We have very examples for trad AI use cases, but like, for example, spam filters in your Gmail account or in your any other email inbox that you have is a very good example of how traditional AI can classify two types of email, spam versus non-spam. If I want to say the primary functions of AI, I can categorize them to the perception, prediction, generation, and identification. Perception means interpret and analyze complex data, mostly based using the Gen AI. Prediction means that forecasting future events or predicting some, for example, customer behavior. Identification mostly refers to recognizing underlying patterns. for example, in the fraud detection or identify or for the predictive maintenance through classification and clustering. And generation means creating or generating new data or content using generative models such as GPT. Perception and generation mostly are GenAI function, and prediction and identification mostly are traditional AI function. Again, they have some overlap. I cannot say you cannot, for example, use traditional AI for perception, or you cannot use Gen AI for identification, but they are not designed to do that. They are designed for the sake of perception and generation, and Trad AI is designed for the prediction and identification. This is very important. Trustworthy AI. It doesn't matter if it's a Gen AI or traditional AI. Trustworthy AI is something that we have to consider in every context, from university to industry. Trustworthy AI have many aspects. We have to make sure that the AI is fair. There's no bias. So we have to make sure that all systems, all the response that we get, treat all individuals equally. We should not see any discriminatory biases in the model responses. In order to have a trustworthy AI, we have to have a transparency, which means that we have to understand how does the AI development process works. We have to understand the data source that being used for the AI, like training the AI models. For the trustworthy AI, we have to make sure that the sensitive information do not release. We have to protect all the sensitive information. In order to have trustworthy AI, we have to make sure that the AI, we have to make sure that we have AI explainability. These are very important in order to use any sort of AI tools. Doesn't matter generative AI or traditional AI. In order to have explainability, you have to make sure that your AI system can explain how they make particular decision or prediction. If you cannot get that from AI, basically you cannot build trust with AI. And the very last, not least, is you have to make sure that you can reproduce your results with AI, either Trad AI or Gen AI. So consistently recreation of the result is very important. This is critical in AI world, because AI world is basically a probabilistic world. And if you run one question versus, let's say, ChatGPT several times, you'll see that your answers may become changed. And if you cannot reproduce same result for the same question in a few attempts, you cannot trust AI, especially in the sensitive use cases. How we can get there is we have to regularly audit the whole data sets and AI training. We have to make sure that we have diverse training data sets. We have to make sure that we can evaluate AI models by fair metrics. For the transparency, we have to make sure that every time that we want to build AI, we disclose data sources. If we are AI company, then we have to disclose model limitations. If we are researchers and want to use like AI generated results in our research, we always have to disclose the model limitations to the community of research that we are dealing with. Otherwise, we cannot build trust with them. For privacy, we can go with the encryption, anonymization, and obviously the compliance, which I'm not going to go through. For the explainability, in the case of the in the case of this generative AI, we can ask model to explain to us how they get to the final answer. One of the challenge of the generative AI models is they reach to conclusion very fast. And if you do not know how they reach to the conclusion, what are the process of the decision making, you may not be satisfied with the result. And obviously for the reproducibility, you have to run your attempt several times. You have to document every attempt of either training or inference. It is important to either for building model or for the using model, you have to document every time that you use or you train your model. What are the questions that you ask? What are the answers you get? What are the process that you follow? So the first time that the whole generative AI models introduced to the AI landscape, there was a very big hype. Still, there's a big hype, but there are they have some limitation that everyone must be aware of. They are hallucinating, which means that sometimes they tell you something which is not correct. They create some reference for you which does not exist. When you ask them to answer a question, if they cannot find the right answer for that question, mostly they do not tell, I don't know. They just hallucinate and give you some answers. Try this one. If you ask many of these LLMs, many of these Gen AI tools to provide resources and references, many of them fabricated reference for you. And this is where the specialized tools such as SCiNiTO, which is designed for academic purposes, exceed, because there's no fabricated reference in that word. All the LLMs have some cutoff knowledge, which means that at some points they use all the data for till that point of time to build and train. So if one peer-reviewed publications did not publish to that point, or if that peer-reviewed publication basically AI did not have access to that publications, you cannot expect AI to provide you answer based on that publications. Mostly, these AI tools do not have a structured feedback. They do not have very consistent tone of response. Every time they use different tone. Every time they use different structure. So in order to, for example, do some research, and when you want to, for example, run gap analysis, you need some structure for your own work with all the details that you have in your mind. If you ask AI to get back to you with some response for the gap analysis, and if you use different AI tools, each of these tools get back to you with different structure, different response, different tones. But you as a researcher need something that have some structure, have some scientific tone. So you have to tune your AI to get back to you with a useful response. These are the very limitations of the general AI tools out there. Obviously, there are some data privacy concerns that we are gonna cover more in the sessions. So we covered what is AI, what is the trustworthy AI, what are the how we can build this trust with AI, what are the limitations of AI in general, but who are the key AI players in the field? So the tech giants, obviously OpenAI, Google have their own solutions. Facebook or Meta have their own solutions. There are some AI startups like Perplexity and DeepSeek, which are very solid in their own landscape. DeepSeek is very solid for when it comes to the like fast and low, a model with a low training cost. Something DeepSeek very exceeding that matter. Perplexity is very good when it comes to the providing you references, something that most of the OpenAI models fail on. Perplexity is also good when it comes to the providing real references. There are some other AI research lab in the big universities such as MIT or ETH or Tsinghua of Chinese university are very leading in building AI models. But how AI is used today? All of us use like a ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini for our everyday as an everyday tool for the search engine or for some simple questions. But there are some semi-specialized tools like a Grammarly for grammar check, or Runway or Descript for video generation, or 11 Labs or Suno for voice generation. These are mostly tools designed for generic use cases like editing, like reading or generating image. But there are some specialized AI tools for example, research purposes, for education purposes. SCiNiTO is one of those tools that designed for research, for the academic researchers, to help them run literature review efficiently, to help them find their answers much easier, and many other more tools. But keep that in your mind. There are some everyday tools, there are some semi-specialized, and some of these tools are very specialized in one field. So we covered the general definition of the AI literacy and what are the very basics of AI. And now we want to jump into the AI applications in library services and in academic research, which I think is the most important part of today's webinars. AI application in library services can be listed, at least these are the three important ones. We can definitely go beyond, but three important ones is AI-powered search and discovery, AI chatbot and virtual assistant, and AI for accessibility and inclusion. For the AI-powered search and discovery, which is one of my favorite basically use case of AI in library, is for enhanced search. Traditional keyword search often fail these days. They cannot capture true intent behind a user query. But AI-powered semantic search, which is built in tools such as EKB SCiNiTO, go beyond exact keyword matching. The whole idea of semantic search means the AI can retrieve information not only based on exact match, but also based on the definition, based on the closeness in use in the literature. It doesn't need to be exact match to be retrieved, as long as AI decide that there is some relevancy between your query and the resources, it will retrieve for you, which is definitely makes the whole experience of a search revolutionized. You definitely may notice that right now even Google provide the idea of the AI mode search in their own internet data. So I know that in the US they released this AI generative basically search experience that help users retrieve information based on this semantic search. And this semantic search is being built in the EKB SCiNiTO solution, specifically for academic data, for the research data, which usually is not available in Google, in the internet data. The next use case is the AI chatbot, virtual assistant. Obviously, the benefit for this is 24/7 availability. The repetitive inquiries that all the librarians received can be answered by this AI chatbot and virtual assistant. So if you implement the AI chatbot in university, you can let all these repetitive works being done by AI, and you as an expert spend your time on something more valuable. The other use case of AI for libraries, which I like, is the whole idea of accessibility and inclusion. The power of AI for transcribing lecture, solution like Otter.ai, that can transcribe speech to text is amazing. The whole use case of the AI for transforming text to speech, especially for visually impaired user, or even for everyone to learn easier, is wonderful. So the power of AI that can build podcasts for you out of a text, the power of AI that can read fluently one document for you and you listen to it, is mind-blowing. Definitely all the libraries can use AI for providing more accessible a solution for their users. So accessibility, chatbot, and semantic search are applications specifically for the libraries. But let's go into the academic research and what are the applications of AI in academic research. There are many applications, but today we are going to review 4 or 5 of them, like data analysis, literature review, research task, writing, and publishing. You can use AI for the sake of data analysis and interpretation of data. You can interpret tables, statistical results using AI. You can generate insight out of a large complex data sets using AI in a very simple prompt. You can use AI for data visualization. Recently, the data visualization part becomes much more useful. These are some simple prompt, means some simple questions that you can ask AI to get back to you. These are very simple prompts. You cannot get all of your need out of these prompts. We are going to have more workshops on the how to write prompt effectively. But just we provide it here as an example that how you can use AI for the sake of data analysis. In the next slide, I'm going to show the output of one of them, interpretation of the confusion metrics in the AI world. So this is the response that I get out of this very simple prompt. Interpret this confusion matrix, which I provide numbers for it. And AI get back to me with this document. They break down the results. It provides me the key metrics for the AI, which did not exist in the input data, and all the explanations needed. This is a very brief report, as our prompt were very brief. When you ask more detailed questions, you can get more detailed analysis. But I just wanted to provide you an example to show you how easy AI can help you for sake of data analysis. Literature review. Again, as I said, it is a mind-blowing experience. When you can summarize a large data set, a large number of articles, scientific articles, summarize them in a one simple prompt. You can easily understand, you can easily compare multiple scientific articles next to each other, analyze their achievement, their results using this GenAI tools. Again, these are the very simple prompt to do lit review. If you follow in our next workshops, we are going to provide more practical way of extracting literature review using SCiNiTO, using more enhanced prompts. But these are very simple prompts for the sake of lit review. You can take advantage of AI for identifying research gap. You can take advantage of AI for identifying research questions. It's not very simple to do. You still need to write effective prompt to get back to you with the useful gap, useful research questions. So, but what matters is you can do a lot with AI tools to effectively, research in the academia. For example, these are the very simple problems. I'm not going to go through them because this is maybe it's not very effective, but this is very, very sample. In the next slide, in this slide, I'm showing you a result of gap analysis based on a very complicated prompt that we wrote and we run to analyze a big pile of articles and get back to me with a very structured response in a way that I, as a researcher, need. As a researcher, when I want to do gap analysis, I would like to understand what is the current state of research? What is the limitation of existing work? What are the desired outcomes, which we do not have now? What are the open questions, and so on? So these are the structure that we define in the prompt to get back to us with a useful response. We also ask AI to evaluate these gaps based on their impact, based on their novelty or the feasibility, and so on. So this is the output of a dedicated complex prompt for the sake of gap analysis that you can run in the different AI tools. You can use AI for writing and editing. I'm sure that you already tried this for drafting, for example, a paragraph or rephrasing a technical content in a clear English, or even check grammar and structure. You can use AI for converting, for example, a citation list from one standard to another standard. This is something that it was time consuming for me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in order to convert a standard of one citation, like citations from one standard to another ones. You can use AI to find the right journals for your works in order to prevent all the unnecessary waiting time, or in order to increase the chance of acceptance for your research, which is amazing. You can save time, months and months. So I'm gonna talk about the AI guidelines used by leading university in 5 or at most 10 more minutes, and we are gonna open the sessions for all the questions that you have. So leading university started to providing some guidelines to their users, especially from their library, basically in their libraries. They have to provide these resources, these tools to their library users, and to ensure the academic integrity and ethical standards across the whole campus. they have to they have to ensure that all the students and professors can benefit from AI without endangering any learning quality. For example, Harvard, MIT, or Stanford, they already have some guidance in their websites in order to help their professors to choose how they should adopt AI in their courses, how they should adopt AI in their research. They offer some tool sets. As I said, for example, they offer this tool set is good for research. This tool set is good for drafting proposal. This tool set is good for analyzing data, and so on. They, as a university, as a libraries, provide a set of trusted tool sets to their library users to make sure that everyone have access to the same quality of resources. They not only provide information, but also they provide some dedicated sandbox, what you can see on the left side. So in order to make sure that all the university professors and researchers have access to same quality of AI, they have to provide an environment that everyone have access to the same level. So they have their own services that when you can log in, you can get you can have access to few generative AI tools with university and education license. So these sandboxes is very important in the university in order to have a fair use of AI across campus. They definitely provide educational content here and there. They also offer a policy framework for teaching, for research, and for ethical use. For example, for the teaching, for example, they help the professors to find out how they should upgrade their assignments and activities to be AI friendly. Because if you have an assignment that can be solved by AI in a few seconds, you may you basically do not have a right AI content, you do not have a right educational content for this decade. So university provide these policy frameworks for helping the university basic prof and researchers to do their own work. For the academic integrity, for example, they are very firm on the transparency. They always promote this idea to entirely disclose every sort of AI use. They always promote the whole idea of that they have to modernize their syllabus in their university, design course content and assignment using AI. They promote I'm talking about the AI policy framework that they offer. They promote the idea of that everyone must be accountable for every text and every content that they generate. Living in the world of AI generated content, we have to make sure that understand we are accountable for AI generated content, not AI. So in their policy framework, they always promote this idea about transparency, modernizing syllabus, accountability, and also the copyright issue. One of the other reasons that they provide sandbox for their researchers and users is researchers cannot upload copyrighted contents to the everyday AI tools because they do not keep their basically the copyright of your content. So university provides sandboxes, provide educational license for the AI tools within that sandbox so that professors, researchers can use them with peace of mind. So obviously, the whole idea of the fairness and bias and the privacy and data security, which I explained, is a debate, ethical debates that they have in every day. So this is not a one-time thing. They're running different workshops to discuss about this ethical debate week after week. So let's wrap up and have 10 minutes at least for the sake of the your questions. So if I want to wrap up the whole session that we have, I'm going to say that AI is a tool, not a replacement. Individuals in the either researchers or professors play a crucial role in guiding ethical AI use. AI literacy is essential for ensuring responsible AI integration in academia. So do not only think about tool. Think about what is the responsible tool, what is the efficient tool, what is the right way of using this tool, how we can generate value of these tools. So these are things that we are building in the AI literacy programs. And obviously, regulation and guidelines are still evolving. So we have to keep ourselves updated with all the changes that we see. So let's finish this session for today. Thanks a lot for all the kind words and all the participation in the chat. Please be aware that we are going to have more workshop in the future. Follow us, Notion Wave, on LinkedIn. Let me share Notion Wave LinkedIn with you guys as well. Please follow us there. We are gonna have more session. We are gonna have a session for the prompt engineering, which would be very useful. And let me share the Notion Wave. So this is also Notion Wave LinkedIn account. Please follow us there. We are gonna promote all of our workshops there. We are definitely would have a more hands-on workshop specifically for research to help you understand what are the capabilities of the AI over there. So yeah, so Rizwana, let's try to close the session maybe in 2 more minutes. I'm not sure. Thanks a lot. I do not have anything else to say. If I couldn't answer your question, please feel free to contact us and send us your email. We would definitely happy to answer. Check the EKB SCiNiTO AI. Check and send us email to at ida mhc@notionwave.com. If you have any issue with registration or any support, please feel free to contact ida mhc@notionwave.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Notion Wave LinkedIn, to be informed about future events, and have a great rest of day.